Over 1,500 people died in the North Atlantic in less than 3 hours. Not in a war, not in a storm, on the most celebrated ship ever built, on her very first voyage. The story begins in Belfast, Ireland, where the White Star Line commissioned the largest moving object ever constructed by human hands. The RMS Titanic was 882 feet long, weighed 46,000 tons, and had a swimming pool, a squash court, and a Turkish bath. Her first-class suites were indistinguishable from the finest hotels in London or Paris. The wealthy didn't just book a crossing, they booked an experience. Below them, in steerage, nearly 700 emigrants slept in bunks stacked 3 high, dreaming of new lives in America. The press called her unsinkable. It would prove to be the most dangerous word ever used about a ship. April 10, 1912, the Titanic departed Southampton on her maiden voyage to New York with over 2,200 passengers and crew aboard. As she pulled away, the suction of her hull nearly caused a moored vessel to collide with her. A bad omen, ignored. In command was Captain Edward John Smith, the most respected ocean liner captain in the world, on his final voyage before retirement. She stopped in Cherbourg and Queenstown before turning west toward the open Atlantic. For the first days, the crossing was everything promised. Calm seas, perfect skies. The Atlantic had never felt so civilized. But the wireless operators were receiving ice warnings. 6 separate messages arrived on April 14th, warning of a large ice field directly in the Titanic's path. Some warnings reached the bridge. Others did not. At least one was pocketed and never delivered to the captain. That evening, Captain Smith dined with first-class passengers. The speed was not reduced. Critically, there was no moon that night and the sea was unnaturally calm. No waves breaking at the base of any icebergs. No white foam. No visual warning. At 11:39 p.m., lookout Frederick Fleet spotted something ahead and rang the bridge with 3 words. Iceberg, right ahead. First Officer Murdoch ordered hard a starboard and the engines reversed. 37 seconds. That was all the time they had. The iceberg scraped along the starboard side below the waterline. It seemed almost gentle. Passengers assumed the ship had dropped a propeller blade, but across nearly 300 feet of hull, 5 compartments had been breached. The Titanic could float with 4 flooded, not 5. Designer Thomas Andrews calculated the damage within minutes and told Captain Smith quietly she would sink in approximately 2 hours. Smith had 2,200 lives aboard and lifeboats for barely half of them. The capacity had met legal requirements that were catastrophically out of date. At 12:15 a.m., the distress call went out. CQD, then SOS, the SS Californian was just 10 to 20 miles away. Her wireless operator had gone to sleep. She would not respond. The loading of lifeboats began, but passengers were slow to believe the danger. Lifeboat number 1 was lowered with just 28 people aboard. Capacity, 65. Many boats left dangerously underfilled while hundreds remained on deck. Deep in the ship, third-class passengers faced locked gates, kept back while upper classes boarded. First-class women were escorted to boats. Many third-class women never found them. The ship's band played on deck, upbeat ragtime, meant to keep passengers calm. They played for over 2 hours. None survived. Their final act of courage has never been forgotten. 8 distress rockets were fired into the night. Passengers on the Californian watched the lights and did nothing. Some of the wealthiest men in the world were aboard. John Jacob Astor IV, Isidor Straus, Benjamin Guggenheim. They had walked to the lifeboats and stepped back. Isidor Straus refused to board before other men. His wife Ida refused to leave him. They died together. Guggenheim changed into his finest evening clothes. "We've dressed up in our best," he said, "and are prepared to go down like gentlemen." By 1 a.m. the Bull was awash and hundreds still had no lifeboat. By 1:40 a.m. the last boat was gone. Over 1,500 people remained aboard. Steel groaned. Windows burst. Over 1,000 gathered at the rising stern, the last dry ground on Earth. At 2:17 a.m. the lights went out. Then came the sound, something between a roar and a shriek as the ship broke apart. The bow plummeted 2 miles to the ocean floor. The stern stood vertical against the sky, then followed. At 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, the Titanic was gone. Over 1,500 people were in the water. The temperature was 28 degrees Fahrenheit, below freezing. Survivors in lifeboats could hear the screaming. For 20 minutes the ocean was filled with voices. Then, one by one, the voices stopped. Only one lifeboat returned. It pulled fewer than a dozen people alive from the ocean. Dawn revealed a graveyard. Deck chairs, luggage, life jackets scattered across miles of the North Atlantic. The Carpathia had raced 58 miles through ice-filled waters and reached the first lifeboat at 4:10 a.m. She pulled 710 survivors from the water and found no one else alive. Of the 2,224 aboard, 1,517 died. News reached New York that morning. The Unsinkable ship had sunk on its very first crossing. Thousands gathered outside newspaper offices reading casualty lists name by name. When the Carpathia docked on April 18th, 30,000 people stood in silence at the piers in the rain. The survivors were changed forever. Many never spoke publicly about what they saw. J. Bruce Ismay, chairman of the White Star Line, had survived by boarding a lifeboat. The press never forgave him. Senate and parliamentary inquiries followed. The bulkheads hadn't reached the upper decks. Water simply spilled over the top, a fatal flaw inside the celebrated design. Speed had been prioritized over safety. Ice warnings disregarded at the highest level. The aftermath reshaped maritime law permanently. SOLAS, the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, was enacted in 1914, requiring lifeboats for every soul aboard. The International Ice Patrol was established, monitoring North Atlantic shipping lanes to this day. Ships were required to maintain a 24-hour wireless watch. The Californian's sleeping operator had cost over 1,000 lives. For 73 years, the Titanic lay undiscovered. In 1985, Robert Ballard found the wreck 2 miles down, split in two, exactly as survivors described. Pairs of shoes on the seabed, still where their owners had fallen. The ocean had become a cemetery. In 1997, James Cameron's film brought the story to an entirely new generation. The Titanic had refused to be forgotten. Over a century later, it remains one of the most searched, most studied, most retold stories in human history. Because it is not really a story about a ship. It is a story about arrogance, about inequality, about what happens when human beings mistake confidence for invincibility. The Titanic didn't just sink. It took an entire era's faith in human progress down with it, in 2 hours and 40 minutes.